All right, so what I'm doing now is probably the hardest part of this dish we're going to do tonight, which is pan-seared skillet-baked salmon. And I want to tell you, fellas, if you're looking for a dish, don't feel too comfortable in the kitchen, but you want to do something maybe nice for your girl who's coming over for dinner or something, this one's pretty good because it's not real hard. It doesn't have a lot of ingredients, but it's got a neat look to it, and it's got a couple of neat events like searing the salmon and then sticking the whole thing in the oven. And then you pull it out and it looks really good. But like I said, we start off by cutting up a bunch of cherry tomatoes, just cutting them in half, real easy, like no problem. All right, so I cut up most of a pint of these cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, sweet little tomatoes, whatever you want to use. Heirloom color ones are really cool. You can get now buckets of ones that are like purple and yellow and green and red. That's cool too. I just have these red sweet ones. Now, for this dish, you're going to want a cast iron skillet. Simple. Everybody's grandmother has a cast iron skillet. Perfectly acceptable for this dish. Great thing to use. What I'm going to be using is my Le Creuset saute pan. I just love this pan. It's also cast iron. It's a little bigger, arguably too big for this dish, but I really like it. This is a dish you can do with one fillet, two fillets, whatever will fit in the pan you have. I've got this tail cut of salmon that I got today. Looks pretty good. So what we're going to do with the salmon first to prepare it is put some avocado oil on it. I like to use avocado oil for this dish. It has a real high smoke point, so you can get your pan nice and hot without a big smoky mess. And so I'm just going to pour a little avocado oil on there, brush it off nicely, turn it over, nice and good and coated. I don't think there's really a danger of having too much avocado oil. And then I'm going to put a little in my pan. Oh, by the way, I've already turned my oven on, 450, bake 450 or convection bake. Mine steps that down then to 425. It's heating up right now. So I've got my oil in my pan. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the stove. I'm going to run that up to about medium heat, but I'm going to watch it because these Le Creuset pans get really nice and hot really quick, and I don't want to create a big smoky mess. So then I just come back to my salmon, a little bit of pepper, don't want to overdo it, a little bit of salt, and she's ready. So to recap, we've cut tomatoes in half. We've put oil, salt, and pepper on a piece of salmon. We've done most everything we're going to do. Well, there's one more step coming up that we'll do. I'll tell you about in a second. And we're getting the pan heated up. So I got to let the dog out right now. So let's go outside, Leo. Good boy. And then I'm going to go out to the herb garden and I'm going to pick some lemon basil. All right. Foodness Gracious is the website where I got this recipe, and they use tarragon. Great, it's great on the salmon. I'm going to try lemon basil instead of tarragon. So I'm going to go pick some of that and come back and cut it up. I'll be right back. All right, so this is lemon basil. I've got a ton of it growing in the herb barrel outside. It's very prolific. It smells awesome, and I've never cooked with it, but I'm looking forward to. I think basil and fish, lemon basil should be good. Now I've already cut up some of it doing what's called a chiffonade, and you get these nice ribbons. And how you do it is lay several leaves on top of each other, roll it up, take your sharp knife, chiffonade, all right? You could do this with scissors, just cutting the leaves, but this seems a little more chefy, so I kind of like that. So you're probably asking how much of this tarragon or lemon basil or whatever herb I want to use do I need to cut up? And I'd say, well, about a fistful, what's that? Maybe half a cup. That's going to be plenty. You'll see when we sprinkle it in later. And you also kind of decide on your own personal preference whether you think you'd like to have more or less. All right, so we're ready to put the salmon in the skillet, and we're going to sear it for about 1 minute on each side. The oven is heated up to 450. The stove, I've got my stove on like barely above 4, but this Le Creuset pan is so good at keeping heat. That's going to be pretty good. I think, well, it's about 5. The salmon, remember, we put some avocado oil, salt, and pepper. That's it. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to put it skin side up, right in the pan. Come on and show that there, Coop. You see there's not a ton of oil in the pan. So we're going to sear that for about a minute. All right, so it's been searing for about a minute. Take my spatula, it's nice and loose on there, and I flip it over. Look at that. Lovely little sear on there. Got a little oil in there. It's going to hopefully crispy up that skin a little bit. Now, during this little bit of time while it's on the skin side, I'm going to take my butter. I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon on each side. Right there and there. Bring in my tomatoes. I may have cut too many tomatoes to see just how much you like tomatoes. And then my chiffonade of lemon basil. A little on top, a little in the pan. Smells good. Lemony and basil. All right. So then, this is the neat part, the chefy part again. This whole business goes right into our 450 oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, depending on the thickness of your fish. All right, and we'll be back. We'll pull it out in a few minutes, and we'll check. So the salmon's been in about 8 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and pull it out. See, I got some yellow squash in there, also roasting up. That's gonna be pretty good. We'll maybe do a video on that sometime. So you can see the tomatoes have roasted up nicely. Everything's kind of in this buttery avocado oil. The fish is nice and firm, flaking a little bit. So I'm going to call that ready, and we'll wait for the squash to be finished. Serve this up with some rice, roasted yellow squash, and probably a Chardonnay. All right, so it's after dinner now. The salmon was delicious. I really enjoy that recipe, and like I said, it's unique, but it's not that difficult. Remember, you have a good piece of salmon with avocado oil, salt, and pepper. Put it in a pan that's nice and hot with some avocado oil in the pan. Flesh side down for a minute. Turn it over. Put in your sliced tomatoes. Sprinkle on top your herb. Tarragon was originally recommended at Foodness Gracious. We used lemon basil today, and it was really excellent, so I could recommend that. Lots of other ways you could go too. I'm sure you could do dill, thyme, rosemary, sure. Once you flipped it over, oh yeah, half a tablespoon of butter on each side. Once you flip it over, in the oven, 450 oven for about 8 minutes, good to go. It's a great dish. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you on the next video.